My name's Kathy A, and today I'm going to kind of go off the beaten trail just a little bit because, as you know, I love to bake, I love to cook, and I love to share my recipes and hints and tips for cooking. So this is a cooking, baking video. Normally I do makeup hauls and lifestyle stuff and travel and all kinds of other different types of videos, but mostly I started as a makeup channel and I try to stay in my lane, so to speak. But once in a while I drift away. Today's video is very special to me because I'm showing you something that I love to make, and these are called hand pies. Now, when you make a regular pie, you generally have a pie crust, a filling, and then some of them have a top crust on them. You bake them in the oven, and you take them out and you slice them. And hand pies are kind of made out of the same stuff, but they're very portable and they're very easy to make. You can really charm people with the different designs that you can use for hand pies. My favorite mold, believe it or not, is from the Dollar Tree, and it is just a round soup container. I took the cover off, and then just this round ring stamps into the dough, and it makes a perfect disc, a perfect size disc for a hand pie. Now, this kind of a hand pie you can make either savory or sweet. After Thanksgiving, you can make this flat disc. You can fill it with a little gravy, a little turkey, some vegetables, some potato, a little more gravy, some spices, close it up, seal it, bake it, and you have a pot pie, portable pot pie, hand pie. So it's not just the fruit fillings and sweet fillings that you can do with hand pies. The thing is, when you have hand pies, the star of the show is the crust. The crust has to be good. It can't be soggy. It has to be kind of flaky. It has to be, hold together. And you don't want to see a lot of leaks of the stuff inside. It can really make it look messy, and I've seen some look really messy. Okay, it all begins here with our crust. Now, the pie crust is probably the most important part of a hand pie because you can put any filling in the pie, but if the crust is no good, then the pie is not going to be good. One of the secrets is to keep all of these things in the refrigerator until you use them. That includes your bowl, any utensils that you use, and ice water. If you can see, there's ice in there, and your butter and your shortening. And all right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to measure 2.5 cups of flour, and I have sifted this and leveled it off. So that's 2.5 cups of flour, and then we have 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to put that in there. And we're just going to whisk that together. That will also aerate the flour a little bit. This bowl is cold. It's straight out of the refrigerator. Now, in making a pie crust, the refrigerator is almost as important as the oven is. Okay, so now we're going to cut our butter, and there's 6 tablespoons here of unsalted butter. We're going to cut that into little cubes. Cut it this way. It has to be very cold. And the reason it has to be really cold is because the fat needs to stay as intact as possible in the dough in order for the dough to be flaky. So this is very cold. It's not room temperature. Okay. And then we need 2/3 a cup of shortening. Now you can use, if you want to use something like the Crisco butter flavor or regular shortening. My brother from Australia refers to it as vegetable lard. Vegetable lard. You can use the butter flavored Crisco, and since cup is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of these little teaspoons. So we're going to cut right there at the 11 mark. And that's the butter flavored Crisco. We're also going to dice that up small. Now this is much more pliable than the butter. It never really gets super hard, but it does have to be cold. So I remember, was it Loretta Lynn that used to advertise this butter flavor Crisco? Well, we'll see. But you know, regular vegetable shortening can't be that much better than this, so I'm going to use this. Alright, so we have a lot of shortening and fat here. I'm going to bring our bowl back, and we're going to just spread that around into the flour. And straight from the refrigerator, this is a pastry cutter. This is what I always use. And firstly, I think we want to mix the butter in with the flour to coat it. And you gotta have a big enough bowl here. Gotta have a little bit of room. So the shortening and the flour, it's good to use both because butter gives it a little better flavor and the shortening helps make it flaky and bakes up, puffs up better. So we're just going to make sure that's all in there. And I'm going to now cut in, just pressing in to incorporate the flour and the shortening or the fats. And that flour already has the salt in it, as we saw earlier. Probably should have gotten a bowl with higher sides. And this will make 2 pie crusts, or it's going to make several hand pies. So again, we're just going to keep doing this until the flour is pretty well mixed in. And this changes texture into a coarse, almost pea-sized texture. I prefer to do this by hand. There's something about the control and also seeing where we're at with the status of this. This is the only labor-intensive part of this process. The worst it is mixing the pie crust. Once you feel you've got it pretty well pulled together, and they're little pea-sized shapes, and you can see they're pea-sized shapes, I'm going to add a little bit of water, and it's going to bring it together. A little bit of that ice water, just a little bit at a time. May not even need to use all this ice water, because you don't want it too sticky. This is where experience plays into it a little bit, is knowing when it's done. And when it's done is actually when it kind of sticks together as a big mound. It doesn't crumble apart. if you take a handful of it and it holds together, looks like it's pretty well done there. You're going to put this into a ball. And I might need a little bit more water. A piece of ice in there. It likes the cold. Okay. Now if it's too sticky, you're going to add just a teeny bit more flour. And if it's too dry and crumbly, you're going to add a little bit more water to it. Now this looks pretty good. It's sticking together nicely. It forms a ball. So I'm going to take some of this. I have flour on the side. And I'm just going to, with floured hands, I'm going to fold it into itself. And what you're doing when you're folding it into itself 2 or 3 times, you are creating layers. I'm going to divide this dough in half. And you're going to make a couple of discs. And we're going to wrap those in wax paper. And we're going to chill these for at least 2 hours. Okay, so I have some plastic wrap, and I'm just going to wrap these discs like this, and we're going to put these in the refrigerator for 2 hours at least. You can do it overnight as well. I'm going to put them right in the refrigerator, and in the meantime we'll make those fillings. The very last thing we're going to do is make an egg wash. 2 tablespoons of milk and 1 egg. And we're just going to whisk that up together. And we'll make an egg wash for the pie crust circles. And we'll use a little pastry brush to put that on there. I'm going to let that sit to room temperature. You really need to have a shortening in your pie crust, and it has to be cold just like butter. I use a combination of like 1/3 of butter to 2/3 of shortening, and the shortening makes it nice and light and crispy. The butter gives it that rich taste, and when I'm rolling out the dough, there are little pieces of butter still showing in the dough, and that's good because when they raise up and when the fats disintegrate in the heat, it causes pockets of air, and that causes the pie crust to be flaky. It makes layers of pie crust. So it's a really good thing to leave little bits and pieces of butter in your pie crust. Make a lemon curd. You can either make a homemade lemon curd or you can just buy the store-bought jar of it, which I found in TJ Maxx and Marshall's have the jars of lemon curd. They're absolutely excellent. You can doctor them up with a little bit more powdered sugar, maybe a little vanilla, and stir them up. But with the price and cost of fresh lemons nowadays, it might be a cheaper alternative to have it like that. Now, the idea of cutting your own and making your own lemon juice, you would need, for an actual lemon curd recipe, you'd usually need about 4 lemons. And they're running, maybe $1 each right now, so it would be a little expensive. So I opted for this, and it was a mistake. This is a heat-treated lemon juice. Yes, it is lemon juice, but it's been reconstituted, and that means it's been processed. And so it's highly acidic, and it really tastes different than using a plain old lemon. So, and also you can make a lemon zest with a lemon, and you can't do that with this. And I think a lemon zest, you know, really adds a lot to a lemon zest really adds a lot of essence, aroma, and flavor to a lemon pudding or lemon dish. Now, lemon curd, I hate that word curd. A lemon curd is kind of like a tart lemon pudding, and it's just delicious as a hand pie filling. We're going to start with that one. The first one is the easiest, and that's lemon pies. Little lemon hand pies. Now these jars of lemon curd, you can get them right in TJ Maxx or Home Goods, and they're probably the easiest way. I will list below a recipe that I have for homemade lemon curd, but groceries and the cost of everything, it's just as easy to do it this way. So basically I just open this up, and I like to make it a little bit sweeter. So I'm going to pour this out. It smells marvelous. I'm just going to take every little golden morsel out of there. Lemon curd is sort of a pudding, I guess you could say. It's sort of like a lemon pudding. It's very tart, but it's also sweet. And I like to jazz it up just a little bit by putting a little bit of vanilla and a little bit of powdered sugar in, and that just sweetens it up just a little bit more, like we need that, like a hole in the head. So I'm just going to take a tablespoon of sugar, pour that in there, and I'm going to take some of my vanilla, and I use real vanilla, I don't use imitation. I think it'll just make a refreshing sweetness to it. And I'm just going to mix this all up, and I'm going to put this in the refrigerator. This is the only one of the fillings that I'm going to refrigerate. Now, if you want to thicken a pie filling, like if this is too runny for you, what you can do is you can use starch. Usually some of the pie recipes will require you to put cornstarch in. So our lemon filling is ready. We're going to put it in the refrigerator until the crust is ready, and we'll fill it first thing. Okay? Now, most of the measures for a hand pie are in like tablespoons or a large spoon or 1/8 of a cup. However you have your measures, you can kind of eyeball it, and when you start filling them you can see what your limits are as far as filling them goes. But I find like a very heaping tablespoon or 1/8 of a cup works just great. I think that these are your great measures. And you don't want to overfill a fruit pie. No matter how much you want to have a lot of filling in your hand pie, it won't stay put. It's going to bubble out of the dough. It's going to leak out of the sides. It will hurt the integrity of the hand pie, so you don't want to do that. I'm just going to take my parchment paper and line a cookie tray. You can be exact like me. I make the ones and I cut it so it fits exact. And we're going to, as we make the pies, we're going to place them on the cookie sheet. Now for toppings, I have, this is something I picked up in the store. It's Cinnamon Toast Crunch. This is a cinnamon sugar topping. We also have just plain old white sprinkled sugar. We have cinnamon sugar, which is a 1/4 cup and a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon mixed together. It's just cinnamon sugar. And then we have Dr. Oetker's vanilla sugar. So, you know, there's a choice of different things you can put on top of the pies. You don't want to overwhelm the taste of the pie with the topping, but some of the toppings can really bring out some nice flavor, especially with apple and peach pies. So, I'll be back shortly, and the magic of video, I will be back in a moment. I started off with this set, and they are an owl and a fox. And what they are is, on the back side it's plain, but there's enough indentation to cut the outline out in your dough. You roll about a 1/8 inch dough out, you stamp this in, it makes a plain one. You flip it over and you've got the pattern side, you stamp that in. And then you have to poke out some pieces here. I like to also kind of vent out the eyebrows on the fox or the nose. Just to give it some venting space, because when you're cooking a pie in dough, the steam builds up from the liquid heating, and if it doesn't have anywhere to go, it will explode out wherever it can, the weakest point of the dough. So you want to have a very precise place where you want that steam to escape, and it has to be in different parts of the dough itself so that it has a place to have that steam escape. It also keeps the crust from getting too soggy, and it'll keep it nice and fluffy and crispy for you. Okay, now comes the fun part. We have a chilled disc of dough, and I'm only going to do them one at a time. Just took a soup container from the Dollar Tree. It has a round top, and you can use any round top mug or bowl that's about 4 inches in diameter. So these work really well. It's got a sharp top, and we can use that to cut into the dough to make a perfect circle for our basic hand pies. So the first thing we need to do is we have our surface here with parchment paper. I have some flour here. I'm going to put this down. And we're going to roll the dough out. We're going to put flour everywhere. We're going to put flour on the rolling pin. We're going to put flour on our hands. And there's flour on the surface. Okay. I'm going to make this is a lemon circle. So this is the easiest kind of hand pie to make. And basically you just get a nice flat surface. Just use one of these things right from the Dollar Tree, right here, and you're just going to cut out a circle. That's it. Your circle has to be 3.5 to 4 inches in diameter. I'm going to egg wash the inside of this, and we're going to use some lemon filling. Really just a tablespoon of lemon filling is enough. We're going to flip this over the side, seal it with your fingers, and then use the fork to seal it. Easy peasy, right? You do need to vent. Now you can also make embellishments. If you use a plain disc, you can also make embellishments. Now this is a stamp, a dough stamp. You basically have the cut part, and then you push into it, and it imprints the detailing. So you get detailed leaves, detailed stalks, and you can add these as dough pieces to a plain one. You can put it on the top. You put a little egg wash over it and bake it, and it makes it nice and brown and golden, and it looks really, really sharp. Now our next filling is going to be a pumpkin cheesecake filling. And that one is a little more complex. So you need 4 ounces of cream cheese. Now this is 8 ounces, these regular size packages. So I'm going to cut that in half. Okay, I'm going to seal that and put that away for bagels. And then it says to use half cup of pumpkin puree. This is not pumpkin pie filling or anything. This is pumpkin puree, just the real thing. And I'm going to open this just by hand here. And this is just as good as fresh pumpkin. Okay. Oh, a little heavy-handed there. All right, I'm going to pour that right in with the cream cheese. And this is going to taste like a pumpkin cheesecake filling. Awesome. Go to the last drop, put that in there. And we also need half a cup of brown sugar. So brown sugar has to be hard packed in there. Just push it down as we go. This is the Domino. It used to be the best brand. I think brown sugar looks lighter and lighter every year. So hard pack should have the shape of the cup in it. Okay. Put a little in for extra measure. To mix this all together. Don't have your cheese at room temperature when you start, you do get the little bits and pieces, but this is still going to be a wonderful little pumpkin cheesecake pie. When you are rolling out your hand pie crust, you want to make sure you only roll one disc at a time. The other one stays in the refrigerator until you need it, but just use the one. Just take off a small hunk each time so you're not re-rolling the same dough all the time. So if I know I'm going to be doing, 5 of these or whatever, I'm just going to take one hunk off, roll it out, smash it down, put it together, take a little more, roll it out, smash it down, and I've got my 2 sides. Get them all together, get the filling in, get it on the parchment paper on the cookie sheet, and then take another piece of dough. I'm not going to take that whole disc, roll it all out, and then cut things out. It just doesn't work that way. It doesn't work as well. So you just want to take a little at a time so the rest of that can stay as cold as possible for as long as possible, and you won't overwork it. The more you overwork, overroll, overtouch your pie crust, the tougher it's going to be and the less flaky. And you really want a nice flaky pie crust. have the other half of the dough in the refrigerator, and we'll take that out as soon as these bake. Or if I'm going to put 2 trays in, you got to watch them carefully. You don't want to lose your whole batch in one go if you don't watch it and it burns. So you got to be careful. Now this is a pumpkin. To make the little stem marks on the pumpkin. Okay, so this is the top of the pumpkin, and we're going to make the bottom with the rest of the dough. Hopefully we have enough. I think we will. Yep, we will. Okay. Just going to add a little more dough in here to fill it in because the back is not made correctly on this particular one. Put some flour down. Egg wash. Don't forget your egg wash, it seals it. And I'm going to put about a tablespoon. I wash the inner side of this, at least along the edges, the very least. Put this on top. And you can maneuver that center stuff so that it doesn't come out. If it starts to come out, I always wipe it away. Now you do need to make slits here, so you want to cut into these. You're going to egg wash the top of the pumpkin and then some nice cinnamon sugar on the top. Isn't that pretty? And I will go over each of these. I'll go over the recipe and I'll go over how I made the fillings for each of these, but just so you know, for each one of these animals, this was peach, this was blueberry, and then I had a set of 3. These are the vegetable and plant ones. I have a pumpkin here, an apple, and an acorn. And basically the pumpkin one was quite popular. This one, when you cut it, it makes kind of a smaller pie, and it has lots of slats in it. So you would just cut into all those slats and the pumpkin will show. And it was actually everybody's favorite was the pumpkin cheesecake filling that I had in the pumpkin ones. Alrighty. So the next one we're going to do is blueberry. And blueberry, you can use frozen blueberries, but you have to drain them and rinse them off. You want to get as much moisture off of them as possible. And you're going to need about 2½ cups. So you see you've got that. So we're going to put these into the saucepan, thusly. And then it says we're going to mix together cornstarch, sugar, and salt and pour over the berries. Two, 1, 2. Okay, so it's about 2½ tablespoons of cornstarch. And we have some salt, just a pinch of salt. Okay. And you need the sugar, which we have 1/3 cup of sugar. Mix that in with it. And we're going to pour this into the berries. Pour this right over the top of the berries, like so. Okay. We're going to add a little bit of lemon juice, and I just bought this cheapy stuff from the grocery store. Okay, so we're going to have a tablespoon of this lemon juice. Pouring that over the top. Now we're going to cook this and stir it until it starts to simmer. And just seeing this come to a little bit of a simmer, so we're going to cook this for 5 minutes. And we will let that cool to room temperature, and then we'll fill the pies. And it's starting to thicken already. I can feel the difference in it. It's starting to look a little more cohesively like blueberry pie filling. So I've set the alarm for 5 minutes, and when that goes off, we'll pretty much know that it's thick, it's going to cool, it's thicken, and it'll be perfect for filling the pies. See, it's already starting to thicken a little bit. It's going to be delicious. Okay, now it's nice and thick. It's really hot. So we're going to transfer this to a bowl so it can cool to room temperature. And then we can fill the pies with that. Okay, the secret is not to overcook it too much, but that looks like a perfect consistency. Perfect. We're going to let that cool to room temperature, and it's going to be great. Because of the shape of it, for some reason, I could round it out a little more because I put blueberries in it and they're a little fluffier as a filling. So the blueberry owls came out really nicely. Here. I think an egg wash is important, and you're just really basically stirring up 1 egg with 2 tablespoons of light cream or milk. And you brush it on the inside. It acts as a glue, And when you brush it on the outside, it acts as a browning agent. It also really gives the pastry a lively look. And this imprint doesn't always go all the way through, because if your dough is rolled a little thinner than the molds can reach, it won't go through. If you make the dough too thick, you make less pies, and the hand pie will look maybe just a little too doughy. So I'm not that keen on doing it that way. I would say it's about a tablespoon in the center of each of these, and you want to keep it in the center. You don't want it near the edges because it'll fly out of the edges. And that's about a tablespoon of filling. There we go. Alright. Alright, so we're going to flip this over. Brush the inside. Put that down. And you want to seal it with your hands first. And I'm going to cut some slits. Taking the nose out is a great one, and then you can make your own little beak if you wish. You can be creative with this. And I use a little wash here to glue that on. There we go. Gonna want to have there we go. And we're going to take a little bit of the cinnamon stuff and we're pouring it over the top. Anyway, so let's make the pineapple cherry acorns. Alright, for our next trick, we're going to do a pineapple and cherry filling. And this is the only one where I'm actually going to use a canned filling for part of it. And this is just a cherry filling. Cherries right now are not in season. I guess you could get frozen ones. They're very expensive though, around $8. So I just got this. This is a pie filling, which means it's been processed, heat processed, and treated with cornstarch and flour. So we need about 2 cups of fruit filling. So I'm going to put this in. Looks pretty good. And I'm going to make pineapple for part of this because I think pineapple works so nicely with cherries. Alright. Alright, looks like we have 2 cups here. I think what I'm going to do is make another cup and make that pineapple, and we'll mix that together. So I'm using a crushed pineapple, and just like with the blueberries, I've got to drain it and press out all the excess moisture. A lot of moisture here. I think this is going to be probably about a cup, maybe. So this is a third. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. Okay. That's about a cup of pineapple. And I'm going to press this down to take out all the excess moisture. I'm just draining the water, the excess moisture out. And we're going to mix these two things together. Alright, so I'm going to put the pineapple in first. And I'm going to add just a touch of sugar to this. A tablespoon of sugar. And I'm going to use some cornstarch to thicken it. So I'm just going to use a tablespoon of cornstarch into pineapple. And I'm just going to combine those two things, pineapple and the cornstarch. Now thicken it up a little bit. Just a pinch of salt, which okay. And now we're going to add the cherries to that. Remember, they've already been processed, so it's really just a matter of making sure you have a thick enough stuff for the pineapple. Out of the way, and we're just going to stir those together. And if you haven't had pineapple with cherry pie, you don't know what you're missing. It's absolutely delicious. All right. Could that be any easier? We have our pineapple and cherry filling. All right. This next one is a acorn, and I'm just going to press that in. I'm going to go right around here. And you can cut out the diamonds for the vents. If you like. This, as long as you have a steam escape, that's real important. And you can, if you want, cut out the acorn. I'm just going to make slits on the side. I'm going to leave that on the side. And again, I'm only working as much dough as I need pretty much for this particular bottom on here. Flour everywhere, flour on here, flour on my hands. And I'm only working the part of dough that I need to use for this thing. I'm just going to make a light imprint, and I'm going to cut around it, because this is the bottom and it doesn't need to have the design on it. And I don't actually want the design on it because that's a vent and we don't want holes on the bottom. Alright. Okay. Alright, we're going to put some egg wash on the bottom. Set that down on some flour. I'm going to put some egg wash on the inside of this. And we're going to use our pineapple cherry filling for this one. Boy, this combination is so good. If you've never had pineapple cherry together, they are delicious. Putting it on the top here and gently sealing it on the edges first with my hands, shaping it, and then with a fork. I think out of the two, I prefer the small fork for sealing. I think it's more delicate looking, and I think it does the job better than the big fork. Alrighty, so I'm going to put some egg wash on the top of that. And probably some maybe vanilla sugar. What do you think? Vanilla sugar? I've got our acorn. Acorn I filled with a cherry pineapple filling, and the cherry pineapple worked really nicely, and like the blueberry, it puffed it up. So this was another favorite. The pineapple cherry works so well together as a filling, but the acorn, and I just cut out each of these 4 triangles here, and I cut just on the sides to vent on the little acorn imprint below. Alrighty. Now our last filling is going to be peaches. Now you can use sliced frozen peaches. We need about 2 cups and 2.5 cups or so, and you can get that in this package here. If you use frozen fruit, I would thaw it a little bit in the refrigerator first, and I would add an extra ½ tablespoon of cornstarch to help deal with the excess moisture from a frozen product. You can use canned peaches, but they have to be drained. This is probably the easiest way for a lot of people to get peaches, because fresh peaches aren't in every area and they're not always accessible, and they're awfully expensive. And also, this is quick and easy. I get them in the natural fruit juice, but I still drain them. I think you should put a little water over them and drain them. You want to get that excess moisture off of the peaches. Now I happen to have these diced ones, and I was going to take to work as snacks, and I'm not going to use them, so I'm going to use these. And there's about 2 cups here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in the strainer and drain the excess liquid out. It's pear juice apparently, because they're already diced, and that's a pretty nice hack as far as not having to do that myself. You know, dicing up sliced peaches is quite a task in itself. So these are already diced, and I'm using up something I wouldn't have used. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of this excess liquid, rinse off the peaches, and I'll be right back. All right, for the peaches, we're going to drain them, dice them, and place in a medium bowl. Okay, in a medium bowl, thusly. All right. And now we're going to mix cornstarch, cinnamon, salt, and brown sugar together. And I'm using a teaspoon and a half of cornstarch, a ½ teaspoon of vanilla, a tablespoon of light brown sugar, and a pinch of salt, and a ¼ teaspoon of cinnamon. So I do have cinnamon here. Okay. A teaspoon and a half of cornstarch. There's one, and a half of cornstarch. And we're going to use ½ teaspoon of vanilla. And that's here. Right in there. And we're going to need a tablespoon of light brown sugar. I'm going to have some of this. tablespoon. And a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. I think cinnamon looks wonderful on peaches. I think it really gives it a nice, almost a cobbler effect. Okay, and a pinch of salt. All right, and we're going to stir that together. And pour it right in with the peaches. Add a little bit more cornstarch because it looks like there's a lot of liquid in there. I'm just going to add a little bit more cornstarch, and that will fatten up the goose here for the pie. Alright. Brown sugar gives it a little sweetness, the cinnamon gives it a little bit of spice, and the peaches themselves are the star of the show next to the crust. Now if you want, you can use a little knife to chop this into finer pieces, and I may do that. Okay, so we're going to just let this all sit and get together, and as soon as the pie crust is ready, we will be ready to fill it, and it's going to be fabulous. Peach pies. Now all the fillings are ready. We just have to make the pie crust circles, and we fill them and bake them, and we are going to enjoy them. Okay, I'm going to roll it. Hit or miss. The molds are just so stinking cute though, and it makes such a pretty little pie. Okay, and press, and we've got, see how we have the impression on this side? There we go. All right. All right, so we have our top piece for the fox. And now we're going to do the bottom piece. Now what you can do with these molds is you can actually lay the mold inside here and put the filling in. I'm going to do peach on this one. So we got a little bit of the peach. Going to first put that there. And then we're going to put a little spoonful of peaches in the center here. There we go. Now we're going to put the top piece. Going to first put a little bit of egg wash on the inside so it seals properly. And we're going to stick that right on there. And then, technically, you're supposed to be able to do this with it. Well, that's interesting. Okay, it didn't seal too well on the top, though. We have a little bit of our ear missing, so I'm going to have to... Yeah, you need a little extra dough to do it that way. But it is cute doing that. Okay, we're going to put a little on the top here. And then I'm going to try a little of this. This is the cinnamon stuff. We're going to try that. Really cute. So each half a dough makes 5 of these size. All right, we're going to bake these in a 425-degree oven for about 12 minutes. We're going to check them and then we'll do them a little more if they need it. So now always use parchment paper, and I just can't believe my mother went all those years when I was growing up not using parchment paper. It is a godsend in the kitchen. I like to use the regular size parchment paper, not the extra long. Psychologically, you think the extra long will be good for the long trays, but it really isn't. You get 50 square feet of that, but it's square feet. It's not feet going this way, it's square feet. And you get 45 square feet, and it's a more doable size. So get the smaller size parchment paper. You can spray butter on it, you can spray oils, whatever you want on it, but things won't stick to it. And I just think that it's good for the bottom of cake pans. It's good for if you're baking these hand pies. It's really good to be on the bottom of your cookie sheet. So I totally recommend you use parchment paper, and if you have never used it before, please start using it because you definitely will appreciate it for sure. Here are the finished products. So this is how it looked when I set it all up for the guys, and I can tell you that all but 3 of the pies were gone by the end of the day. So it was a really successful treat for the guys. I asked them, favorites, and I said, was anything crappy? Was there anything I shouldn't make next time? And there wasn't a single one of them that said anything. I don't know if they were scared to say anything was bad, but everything was absolutely gone. So I hope it's been fun for you. I hope you give these a try. Let me know, and I will let you know how my turkey hand pies come out after Thanksgiving. So I hope all of you have a wonderful week and have a beautiful day. Take care. Toodles.